Hi, everyone, and welcome to Take the Weight Out of Weight Loss with Natasha. Today, I have with me a very, very special guest, someone that I've been rooting for the past 2 years, and she's blown me away in so many ways, and I can't wait for you to meet her, Lynsey Williams. We're going with Williams, right? I was like, at one point I was like Lynsey Mitchley, but I was like, no, Lynsey Williams, who has accomplished over 35 kilos. I think a bit more this morning after what you just told me, but I can't wait for you guys to hear her journey. And we're going to ask her some very intricate questions today. So we're going to see how that plays out. Welcome,
Thank you so much.
Lynsey.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Every time I see you, I can't stop smiling. I literally can't stop smiling. Like, that's how happy I am for you. And, just the way you've evolved as a person. We're going to get right into it. First things first, if you want to just give us a little introduction about yourself, how much
Yeah.
weight you've lost as of today, and then we'll go a little bit back in time.
Yeah. Lynsey Williams, I have been based in Dubai for the last 8 years. I started my journey probably December 23. I think it's fair to say we had our first conversation. And since then, it has been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm not going to say I was plain sailing, but I have now lost about 37 kgs. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a big number. Like 37 kilos. Did you ever think 2 years ago, you and I met at Shakespeare Cafe? Did you ever
Right.
think you'd ever reach 37 kilos?
Oh, never. I mean, not in my wildest dreams. I thought, like most other things, I'd do this for a few weeks and then it would go back because I never stuck to anything before. Kind of just thought, oh, I'll engage in this for a few weeks
Oh,
and then it'll be back to square one again or even before square one.
I'm like super,
Yeah.
super amazed. Again, proud. So, share a little bit about your journey and what was life like before you decided to take that turn. I know there were a few ups and downs. We've talked about it as well. So what was life like back then?
Look, life was super busy from a work perspective. It can get stressful at times. Um, I had moved out to the region as well by myself 8 years ago. And I have a really good squad here. I'm not going to take away from that, but life does get a bit lonely and, some family stuff happening. My father doesn't have the best of health. Um, and of course, being an expat kid, you're always worried. But then with that kind of thing happening, there's an element of extra worry and a bit more stress as well. And I think I just got into a situation, even with COVID and stuff happening and the lockdown, where, you know, kind of eating to feel, I was happy, I ate. I was sad, I ate. I was
Mm,
depressed, I ate. I was ecstatic, I ate. Um, and a lot of it was probably a little bit more um, alone. It wasn't necessarily that I was a big eater in groups or anything, but definitely in that point when you're at home alone, it kind of just was the easy solution. Also living in Dubai, probably more so than the UK. Um, we have a life of convenience, so everything can be
absolutely.
delivered in super quick time. So there's no real reason not to order that, delivery from the supermarket with your family size bag of chips or Maltesers or whatever. So it kind of just became a bit of a bad habit and a bit of a bad loop that I got into as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was your turning point when you had reached out to me? What was the, let's say, breaking point for you?
Uh, Look, I knew I wasn't happy with my weight for a long time. I'd always tried these fad diets, would start on something, a few weeks later, crash and burn, and not just put on the weight that I'd lost, but put on potentially even more weight. Um, your profile popped up on Instagram one day. I still to this day could not tell you why I thought of pressing the button. But I pressed the button. We had that first very short
Yeah.
online conversation. And then, like you say, we met in Shakespeare. But I still don't know to this day, I still don't know what made me press that button that day. But I'm obviously very grateful that I did.
Yeah, you were in Ireland, I
I
believe,
was,
at the
yes.
time, home for the holidays. We had our call, you came down, we spoke, and it was, the one thing I always say about you, and I've even said it to you over our calls, is that you always, even though you hated it at times, you always tried it. You're like, I don't know why you're making me do this, but I'll bloody try it. You'd roll your eyes. And so I'd always, so maybe that's what it was. You were just thinking to yourself, this could be it. Let me just try it. Maybe it won't work out. And I know you touched a little bit on this just a few moments ago, but what were some of the emotional eating struggles, like exactly the eating struggles? I know there was a Turkish delight. We spoke a lot about Turkish delight. Was it sweet? Was it savory? Was it moments after work?
It was probably more savory than sweet, but I'm not going to lie. There were the family size chocolate bars. There were, multiple things. Even just in terms of, if I was ordering something from Deliveroo, I didn't just order necessarily a main course. It was a starter and a main course. So it wasn't always just restricted to sweet or savory. I think it was more about the volume.
Yeah.
As well. And it was, like I say, if I was happy, it was a reason to get more because I was celebrating. If I was sad, it was a reason to eat because eat your feelings away.
Yeah.
So there was no one particular trigger. I think it was more as well portion control.
Absolutely. What about secretive eating? Because we spoke about how you eat in front of people and you're like, no, Natasha, there I'm good. There I'm really, really good. Did you feel that sometimes because you ate so good in front of people, you had to make up for it in secret? Like, did that ever come up?
I don't think it was necessarily about making up for it. I think, look, it was never perfect when I was eating around other people. I had like a lot, but probably a bit more restrained, right? And I don't think it was necessarily about making up. I think it was just, I think maybe there was an element of boredom in it as well. Maybe some loneliness, some stress, just different emotions, and maybe not really thinking about how to manage them in a different way.
Yeah.
This was kind of the easy route, and growing up, we were told, clear your plate. If you don't finish this, you don't get dessert, etc., etc. So I think it was just more of it was just not knowing how to maybe process in other ways.
Yeah.
Like the walking, like now the weightlifting and all those other kind of release points that I have now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the Clean Plates Club, right?
Yeah.
We're all part of the Clean Plates Club. I remember, parents always do this. I've not spoken to a person that struggled with food where if you ask them what their parent told you, why they feel the need to finish their plate, they say, oh, my mom told me there's a starving kid somewhere around the world. If they don't get it, you should make up for it. That plate of food is not going to make up for our world's, it's just hunger. Like, it's just not going to, but yet we've been there, right? So completely understand, and I can relate. So you mentioned in the past the weight came back a few times. Can you take us a little bit through that on, let's say, your last major weight loss journey? Because I remember when we first started, that was the one that you used to always compare, which is so funny because you're like, if I can just get to that point, I'm good. Then I'm smooth sailing. You way past that point. But let's take it back to that time, how you felt and how the weight slowly creep back on.
I don't think it's slowly crept back on for a start. I think towards the end of like the serious COVID period, obviously, like I said, being at home a lot, just, huge amounts of food. I kind of started trying to do things for myself, calorie counting and being sensible. And I think I had a meal plan at the time. And there was a couple of months where I was quite dedicated to it. And lost some weight. Obviously not to the same extent as now, but lost a little bit of weight. How
much specifically?
It wasn't huge amounts now. I look back, it was 5 or 6 kgs, but in my world, that was a good bit.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, I traveled. And over the summer, I was out enjoying myself. I was seeing friends. I was traveling. Just forgot about, I didn't bring scales with me. No, that's a very different story. And just decided to have fun and not think about balance or not think about going out and getting steps in of a day or, going to the hotel gym or whatever. And I ended up not just back to where I started, but actually worse than I started, every time.
Yeah, that's kind of what tends to happen with people, right? Was there over restriction involved, do you think, when you were going through that diet?
Maybe not in that one in particular. There was definitely some restriction, but maybe not so bad. But I've definitely done other diets before where I've restricted carbs, where I've restricted, potato. I'm Northern Irish. We love our potatoes,
Exactly.
where I've restricted like no chocolate, no something. And I've come to learn that none of that was successful. I can't restrict. I think what I've come to learn through all the work in the last 18 months or so has been about balance.
Yeah.
So not restricting. I can go and have that piece of chocolate, but I have a piece of chocolate, not a whole bar.
Yeah.
I have one potato. I don't need 14 potatoes,
Yeah.
whatever. So I think, I definitely used like fad diets and restrictive diets in the past, and it just didn't work.
I mean, the diets that I've heard of, myself included, cabbage soup diet. I went on a lemon juice diet.
Yeah.
I've done all of it. And if you talk to women,
Keto,
exactly,
everything.
keto, Mediterranean, Atkins, like I've been there, done that. I completely understand. And so I want to now go through your firsts, because in the past 18 months, you've had a lot of firsts, right? And I've got to experience some of the firsts with you. So we'll start with our first month together.
Yes.
Okay. How was that? Because it was once, we went deep. I tried to go deep and you were like, okay, Natasha, we're gonna see, right? But over time, there was a lot of change. There was a lot of, you could see the body's and the mind's rigidity to, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do to me that I don't already know? But how was that first month for you looking back now?
I think that month, when we tried to talk about maybe feelings and softer things, it was very difficult. I'm not really that type of person generally. I think what I tended to do in that first month was, from a work perspective, I was in an event for 3 weeks where you're fed regularly. There's so many snacks, etc. So I think my biggest focus in those 3 weeks was trying to find balance, trying to not overeat, trying to kind of at least set some boundaries. And I think rather than the more maybe emotional side of it, I was very much focused on the food side of it and how we could navigate that.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was kind of my focus. Yeah.
And you aced it. And I remember looking back, that event was so pivotal because you were like, Natasha, this is where, what was it, quiches?
It's like it's not even the lunch or the breakfast. It's the
canapes.
Canapes, like the breakfast, the mid-morning and afternoon snacks. Just, so tempting and so delicious as well. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But it was trying to navigate that. So I think my focus, rather than necessarily being as open to the emotional side, was definitely the more, like logistical, like how do I do this?
Absolutely.
Actual food in my mouth.
I believe the way we do one thing in life is the way we do everything, right? And so I feel, I'm sure you say this at work as well, skills are transferable. So when I seen the way you were operating, I was like, okay, so how she's operating at work is how she's trying to maneuver this right now. And you're like, okay, so, this is how it's going to be. And I'm going to plan it out. And
it was a project.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And you were acing it. Like, let's be honest, you were acing it. Then let's go into our first workout together. I believe it was Boxica. Was it Boxica where we met for our first workout together?
Oh, and I died. Yes, I forgot. That was horrendous.
I think you almost killed me that day. And I said, hey, Lynsey, do you want to come back? You're like, no, thank you. Like, that's not
Definitely
happening.
not. I think physically, look, it's a great workout. I've subsequently done it. I've done, for example, boxing and platform and stuff as well. I think mentally and physically, I wasn't quite ready for that level of intensity. The walking, the swimming was getting me into a good place. I think at that point I realized I had maybe, I had bitten off more than I could chew on that day.
Yeah. But I mean, this is what I mean about your resilience, right? You still did it. You stuck through the whole workout and you didn't even tell me when you were done how much you hated it, right? You were like, yeah, that was
great.
you said that was great. And you had to leave because I believe your friend was arriving that day. But then you told me right after, and I was like, wow, what a trooper. Like, she actually stuck through the entire workout. This is why I say there's a lot of firsts. The other first now I'm going to talk about is your first stumble, which was, I believe, when you were doing your big trip to America.
Yeah.
And this for me was scary. This was when I thought, I think I lost her. I think I don't think I'm going to ever hear from her ever again. I really, that's where, and for me, I take, and I've said this to you many times, I take clients so personally. That journeys for me, every single thing that they do is so personal. And that for me, it was a stumble. It was a stumble along the way. But looking back at that stumble, let's talk about it a
Yeah.
little bit more, because that was pivotal for me. It was like originally thought, I was like, I'm never gonna see this woman again. I'm just gonna, it's
Done.
done. What happened? Like, what happened during that period of time? I know a lot of things were catching up.
Yeah, I think we had spoken, I think, the first week I was in the US, and I basically, my sleep was all over the place.
Yeah.
I was maybe surviving on 2 hours of sleep a night. There were a lot of events happening. I was trying to do my business as usual type work with Middle East. It was just a crazy time. There was some personal stress as well. And I kind of just disconnected. Just kind of, yeah, just, I guess if I was probably looking back on it now, I kind of just thought it's not a priority. And kind of just retracted back to like old status. And then I got back to Dubai, and I remember being in the office, and something came into my head to message, and I messaged you, and we had a call very soon after.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked through everything, got a plan back in place, and it wasn't a quick fix. It took a few weeks to kind of get back into the way of things. But yeah, again, there's just some points in this journey that I don't know why I re-engaged at points, or why I decided to reach out to you, why I decided to re-engage, why I started going to the gym when I did. I can't always bring to mind the reason. But there was something that made me message and come back.
Yeah.
And obviously now I'm very glad that I did.
Absolutely. I mean, when you reached, I thought I was dreaming. I was looked at my phone. I said, "Oh my God, she's messaged," and you're like, Natasha, I'm sorry I came back. And what happened during that period of time as far as food is concerned? Because prior to that, we are, just so that everyone knows, Lynsey's structure was flexible dieting for the most part. So the way I structured things with Lynsey, and the way I structure things with most of my clients, is we had a set calorie for week. We had a free weekday, a weekend day, which was steak and potatoes, glass of wine. Like, it was very, very flexible. It's not like I put her on a strict diet and she didn't want to see me ever again. I really want to put that out there. But food wise, when that moment happened, because it sounds like a crash.
Yep.
And I think when we spoke on one of our calls at the States, I was like, Lynsey, you need rest. You need rest. What was, did food come back to that extent?
It didn't come back to the same extent. Definitely not. But what it came back to was maybe the portion sizes weren't as big as historical events, but maybe the wrong choices, fast food, a lot of heavy carbs, for example. And not that carbs are bad, but kind of grabbing that croissant or something for breakfast, and then kind of just eating very. I was in the US, a lot of fast food,
Yeah.
a lot of quick convenience foods. I would say the one thing that probably didn't come back to the same extent was the portion sizes. I think I was still a bit cognizant of that, but definitely just kind of the wrong choices for a while, and just kind of relying on the fast, the quick kind of turnaround.
So for the woman that's listening right now, right, that's on a weight loss journey and has had a stumble, because we all go through these stumbles. You've actually had a few along the way.
Sure.
You had one very recently in January, and you're like, Natasha, I don't know. It was quite light, but you the way you vocalize now is so different from when you vocalized 2 years ago. You were so, even listening to you, you said, Natasha, I don't know what it is. It's like, it's a slump. I'm not feeling really good. And I said, you know what, Lynsey, it's fine. It will pass. Let it pass. So for a woman that's listening to this right now, that's on that weight loss journey, has probably the same amount of weight to lose as you, maybe even more, what would you tell her when she has fallen off the bandwagon and doesn't know how to pick herself back up?
I think a couple of the differentiators this time around for me has been the support network. And my friends have been supportive. But I guess historically, again, when I tried these fad diets, when I started, going to, exercise a little bit and staying at it for 3 weeks and going off the wagon, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it because I think also in my mind, I knew I wasn't going to stick at it. So look, as I told on this particular journey, as I told my friends and family and things that I was, being more mindful of eating, that I was going to the gym and that I was lifting weights and blah, blah, blah. They have been fantastically supportive. I think before that, knowing that I could reach out to you. So I think it's about having, I guess, an accountability person or squad that you can really turn to be like, help me. Yeah. And I think that has probably been the biggest change in this journey this time around and why it's kind of stuck.
That's amazing. And, that being said, no matter what happened with your food, because you were very honest about your food, you're like, Natasha, that was a shit show, like that didn't turn out as it was supposed to be planned. But this woman stuck with her 10,000 steps more than I. Okay, I'm a little bit jealous as I say that, but you stuck with that 10,000 steps. So when did that come about? Because we started with 5, if I'm not mistaken. We bumped up to 6. And then the minute you hit 10, then it just became a thing. How and when did that start and stuck for so long?
It probably became a thing around the summer last year. So I think we'd probably gotten to about 8,000 steps, 8 to 10, but maybe closer to 8. And then at the same time as we were ramping it up, I started at Roar and obviously the weightlifting plus the steps.
Absolutely.
And I think it was kind of also a bit of a circle. The more I'd done the steps, I had my podcast in or my music on and I go walking. And I really even found, like, the weight loss aside and all of that, from a mental health perspective, like to go out in the morning and have a nice walk, around downtown or wherever I am, or if I'm traveling, I find somewhere to walk, is hugely beneficial. So I try now and get maybe 6,000 steps kind of locked in the morning before I go to work. Sometimes it's more if I have more time, I'll do it. But definitely 6,000 and then try and get the rest throughout the day. But it's, like I say, aside from the weight loss, I think just the effect it has had on my calmness and my, kind of stress levels. And just kind of like, I just really like it. I just find it a very helpful way to start the day.
Yeah.
I don't look at my work phone before I go for a walk. I don't do anything apart from put my phone in and go out. And I think that is why I've kind of kept at it and kind of driven that. I'm also not much of a runner or anything like that. So steps are kind of the main way of getting my 10,000 in.
I mean, you have to embark on these habits, right? And that's something you've always stuck to. So if we were to list some of your new habits that are part of Lynsey now, Lynsey who's lost 37 kilos, habits that you've never had before in the past, what would that include? I know them, but for our audience, the lady that's listening, that's someone that's trying to achieve that, what would be the habits?
So the walking. And I would say now, if we look at the kind of steps tracker on the phone, it's probably between 12 and 15,000 steps a day. Because I've also gotten faster in my walking pace and things like that. So that's a big habit.
Yeah.
Last July, I signed up to Roar. And
Game
I now
changer.
lift weights. Right now I'm doing 4 times a week. I have done 3 times a week in the past. And that has been a game changer in terms of kind of the shape and the toning and all of that. And again, linking it to mental health, not just the weight loss, but the mental health, the stress levels. And I think the combination of those, my sleep still isn't 100%. I still do have some issues with sleep, but it's phenomenally better than it was 18 months ago. And that's a combination of those. I think the other habit is mindful. I would call it mindful eating.
Yeah.
I think when we first started out in this, or even actually when I probably done the previous kind of weight loss start, I went into intermittent fasting and was very like militant. My alarm was set on my phone. I had an app. Even if I was starving, I would
Nope.
not eat before that alarm went off. But I think I've also got to a stage now where I'm more mindful. So if I wake up or if I get hungry at 9 a.m., I'll eat at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
If I'm not hungry, I'll just hold off and have it later. And I think the other habit is portion control. So do I need to have a whole like side of fries to myself? No, I can probably have a couple of fries. Like I say, the family bar of chocolate. No, I can have a square of chocolate and be very happy. So I think, yeah, even getting involved in like group exercise classes now and trying different sports and things that I would never have done. And I think probably the other thing that I've done is, I'm not going to lie, I still like a glass of wine and a drink, but definitely the amount of alcohol I consume is way, 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 way reduced. And I think that was for, one, obviously the weight loss, because next day you want to eat the greasy food or whatever. But also like to go out and drink at night and then go to like a PT session or something at 7 or 8 a.m. I don't know how people do it, because I certainly cannot. So I think all of those things combined have kind of then transformed how I live.
Yeah. There's some emotional habits as well that you've taken on board, as far as your phone, as far
Yes.
as, I think that was a huge change as well.
Yes.
Coming back from the trip, you said, you know what, and I noticed it. I know you're amazing at what you do as far as work is concerned. I know it. You've been passionate about your work from day one. There was always, and I see this with very successful women like yourself, doing everything, bending over backwards, but then almost like putting yourself on the back burner. And it's not about not giving you 100% at work, but there was something pivotal that you did for work that really changed things for you.
Yeah. So when I came out to the region 8 years ago, I originally came on a secondment and I got my work phone and I thought, I don't need a personal phone. I'm only staying for 2 years maximum. And then I'm going back to the UK. And for 7 years, I had my work phone and no other phone in the UAE, which meant my personal life and my work life were on that phone.
Yeah.
And it meant I was always contactable with work. People, and nothing but people WhatsApping at the weekend asking questions. I would see that because it's also my personal WhatsApp, seeing emails come up, notifications. And I hadn't really fully thought about it until May 23, when I was getting my phone upgrade in the office. And they said, would you like to buy this handset? And I thought, yeah. I got a SIM card delivered in 2 hours. And I think I remember telling you about a week after, even within a week of having a personal phone, I could see a huge, like a tremendous difference. Yeah. And then I just kind of had rules of, my work phone doesn't come into my bedroom, because my phone was my alarm as well. So if I woke up in the morning and the alarm went off, the first thing I saw was work. So I never fully disconnected. So getting the personal phone and just kind of having that separation, hugely pivotal. I mean, just in being able to set rules. And I think also things like, I get up in the morning, I don't tend to look at my work phone until I've went out for my walk. When I go to the gym, unless there's going to be something urgent, I don't take my either phone, actually personal or work, onto the gym floor. Yeah. That's my time. That's my focus time. That's my kind of mind clearing time. And again, I try and just keep it kind of separate late into the evening. It doesn't come into the bedroom. So that has been hugely genuinely life-changing. And then the other thing is, like I say, mornings I tend to go for my steps. When it comes to the gym and my sessions with Hiba, they're non-negotiable. So they're locked in my calendar. If, for example, last week, a lot of times we do morning sessions because I feel fresher in the morning. But last week, we could only do 5 p.m. on Monday evening. That is locked in my calendar. That is my time. Even my team know now. My team have access to my calendar and they see the sessions with you or with Hiba or with whoever. And they know that's kind of, Lynsey isn't around for this bit. So it's become non-negotiable as well.
There you go. And like, this is, it's for people to understand that, yeah, you've done a lot of physical changes, but you've really changed so many aspects of your life, to live who you are, and people now respect you and view you as this person. I've got to see Lynsey's calendar. Does she have a workout? I need to schedule my meeting or my time with her before or after her workout, which is so important, because
Yeah.
now they see you as that person, right? Which is blows my mind every
Yeah.
single time, but I love it. I want to talk about something that happens to so many of us on our weight loss journey. And I know you and I have struggled through a bit of those moments, which are plateaus, right? The good old plateaus. You've done every single thing in the book. You've weighed, you've measured, you've tracked your calories, you've eaten really good, you've not gotten out, you even skipped the glass of wine because you're like, no, I feel like this is going to be the week. And then you step on the scale and it is frustrating. So frustrating. Tell me about your plateaus, how you see them now, and what you've kind of learned from them.
I think at the start they were very demotivating. Absolutely demotivating. I think as the journey has gone on, even when there's a plateau, I've learned to appreciate other things that are happening. So if it was a plateau on the scales, maybe there was something in the measurements, or maybe if there was a plateau, I'd been really consistent, at least in my gym activity or something. So I think, I'm not going to lie, I still get frustrated at times. I know I do. But I think it's become less of an issue because I try to think about the bigger picture and what else is happening. I've changed my fitness levels. I feel better. I feel healthier. My clothes fit better, all of that. So I think it's taken time, and it still has an element of frustration, but it's thinking about the other things, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that has helped a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Measurements, definitely. I know you've told me, like, Natasha, I'll take it this week, but if I see this again next week, it's going to be very frustrating for me,
Just
right?
throw the scales out the window.
Absolutely. But I mean, you really, really managed it. And this is what I love about your journey. You keep saying it, 18 months. This was not 8 weeks. This was not 12 weeks. This was not 16 weeks. This was 18 months for you to get here. And I really want to emphasize that, that, yeah, you've made all these changes. They didn't happen overnight. Like, let's just face it. Even the phone came out in May and you're like, yeah, I think this is time, right? So now that you mentioned Roy, I also want to talk about your weightlifting, because for women, as we mature, weightlifting is so huge. We think, oh no, I've got to do all these bouts of cardio to shed that fat off. You've been so religious with it. Roy has been such a huge asset for you, and you going there 4 times a week, best trainers, getting that specialized attention. Have you ever weight trained in the past to this level?
Not to this level, no.
Yeah.
I dipped my toe in, but like everything else, I backed away very quickly.
And so how has weight training been for you? Because it's progressing, and it's progressing really well.
Yeah. I don't know what clicked last July when I was coming back from holiday. I was back home for a couple of weeks. I'd seen Roar open in my building, passed it a few times, but never thought anything of it. Coming back from a trip home. And again, something similar to when I clicked the button with you. I clicked the button to inquire with Roar. I think they came back very quickly. The next day I was down having an intro session with Sarah, signed on the dotted line. And I think the next day I was in with Jordan, doing my measurements, kind of starting. Next day in with Hiba on my first session. I think the nice thing about the gym is just because of their setup and the people they have, the team they have. Like, I was going in, 25 kgs heavier than I am now. I wasn't confident in the gym. I felt like a complete idiot, to be very honest. But they didn't make, I think historically when I've tried to go to gyms, I've always felt very intimidated, very overwhelmed, just kind of backed away. I think the nice thing about going to there is because it's private, there's not like big grunting men all around the place. But they also didn't make you feel stupid or huge, or they celebrated the small wins. And I think that was a huge part in being able to stay with them. It's been a really interesting journey. I mean, I still hate the sled push. Nothing will make me enjoy it. but I think what it has done for my confidence, I think what it has done just in terms of, like I said, the change in body. So not just the losing weight, but the toning up and kind of the changing body shape. I mean, I have muscles now, which I
I
never
know,
thought I
I've
would
seen
have.
that.
So it's been such a fantastic, I think everything that I've invested in the last year or last 18 months in terms of time and money and commitment, I think has all been totally worth it, and clearly totally worth it because I'm still doing it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You know, as far as lifting goes, you know, the toning,
Yeah.
building muscle, so many women get so fearful of it. They get so scared of it. And they think, no, I don't want to get bulky. And I don't want it. And I would rather just spend hours on cardio. For you specifically, what has that done for you as far as moving your weight loss going? And as far as your strength, let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
So in terms of the weight loss, like when we first met and joining Roar in July 23, I had lost about 10 kgs, and I was on the right track. But there was just, I guess I don't know what clicked for Roar specifically over other things, but I knew. I think we talked about this. I knew I kind of needed to do something else. The steps alone. I think by that time, we recognized, and you were kind enough not to like over push me, but I think we both knew the steps weren't going to be enough for that like longer term stuff. So I think that first 6 months was about 10 or so kgs, and then since July last year to now, about 25, 27 kgs.
Yeah.
Again, it hasn't been a smooth process. When I went home at Christmas and we measured after, there was an upward trend
Absolutely.
rather than downward, and there's been a couple of bumps along the way. I would say between July and Christmas last year, I was traveling a lot for work, so I wasn't consistent. Week on, week off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks
remember.
off. And I, at that stage, still didn't have the confidence to go to a hotel gym. So I was more focused on the steps. But for some reason, I kept going back when I was in Dubai. And I was still still having my sessions with you and things. And then since January, thankfully, from a work perspective, my travel has been a little bit less. So I was able to be consistent. I think my strength has improved, phenomenally. I mean, as much as I hate the sled, I think I'm pushing like 50 kgs plus the weight of the sled. So definitely, I mean, when I first went in, I couldn't even push an empty sled. So it has worked wonders for my strength. I definitely haven't bulked up. I think I've toned up.
Yeah.
Problem being, I still have, some loose skin. But I can see where I've got muscles now that I didn't have, strength that I didn't have, and confidence that I didn't have
Absolutely.
before.
I'm so happy you brought up the confidence, because that's something I want to touch upon. What has it done for your confidence in comparison? If you look at Lynsey back then, we have some pictures from when we first started. How did Lynsey feel about her confidence back then and when she showed up in front of people? And how does she feel now?
There was definitely an element of like a front, right? I think I've always been fairly confident, just the nature of kind of me as a person, the nature of my role and things like that meant, I had to talk a lot. I had to kind of be out there a bit. But I think some of it was a bit of a front, right? I think there was behind the scenes, like super nervous, not at all comfortable, and also, like significantly overweight, so not comfortable with things. Now I think I'm actually confident because I think I'm happier. And not that I was unhappy. I think just everything together was, just not a great headspace. So I think the confidence is actually more authentic now, I guess.
Yeah.
Even going into shops and things, yeah, definitely. I think it's more authentic is how I would do it. I think that before it was maybe a bit of like just a cover.
Yeah. How do you feel now when you look in the mirror?
Mostly pretty good. I'm not going to lie, like the loose skin kind of does frustrate me a little bit, very honestly. But overall, I mean, when I look back at some of those before photographs and things, and I can see where, shape has changed, my legs have shrunken, different things have happened. Even my face, I guess, just in terms of some of those initial photographs. So no, I'm definitely like mostly happy. Of course, like anybody, there's going to be some bits that I'm not happy with, but I think that's human nature as well.
Yeah. I mean, do you mind if we touch on the loose skin?
No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, I mean, the thing with loose skin, right? I struggled with it. I've had a tummy tuck. We've talked about it. I still struggle with loose skin on my arms. It's why you guys see me in long sleeves most of the time, because I'm not ready to do that surgery just as yet. But it's part of the process. It is really, really part of the process. Did you expect it to be at the extent that it is?
I actually probably expected it to be a little bit worse, particularly at my stomach, I would say. I think my legs and my arms are pretty, the kind, I can see, for example, like the underarm and the inner thigh, they're bad enough. I think I expected my stomach to be worse than it is. But there is a significant bit there that...
Yeah. Does it weigh out the work that you've done?
No. I would rather have the loose skin than be at the plus 37 kgs that I was 18 months ago.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, because I can't tell you how many times women message me and say, well, if I have to struggle with loose skin like you, I would have just not lost the weight anyways. And I said, are you kidding me right now? Are you going to compare a weight loss journey to loose skin? And I get it. There's scars. It's an invasive surgery. There's things of that sort. Are you thinking of plans as far as loose skin goes?
Yes.
And
yeah. I am definitely thinking of plans. Tummy, boobs, arms, legs. Don't know whether the arms and legs will ever get there. But in terms of priority, tummy is definitely a priority. I think I could go to the gym all the time and do all the steps in the world, but it's not going to remove the loose.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything to the loose skin. So no, it's definitely on the agenda.
Thank you for being so honest, because people lose the weight. They'll do all their nips and tucks and they're like, well, I lost the weight. This is what I look like. The harsh reality is you're left with stretch marks. I have stretch marks in places that you can't even imagine, right? Loose skin, a tummy tuck scar. I have loose skin on my arms. It's the reality. And it's like you said, I would not give up any of my journey because I'm with this right now.
One of the things I want to think about is here. I've noticed here. And I think it's a combination of age and the weight loss. So I'm just not quite ready to do anything yet. But
Yeah. But
you look phenomenal.
You look phenomenal. I'm going to put it now to the audience and other people, right? You said you've had an amazing squad. And so I want to see, how are people receiving Lynsey now? Right? It could be friends. It could be people that have met you for the first time. What's that experience like?
Oh, my friends are super supportive. I think I had told my close friends about some of the journey, particularly as we've gotten into the weightlifting and stuff like that. More close friends and family have been aware of, me going to the gym and being committed. I didn't make a big kind of deal about it with a lot of people. And it's only been in the last few months that kind of a lot of people have really seen the difference. And then obviously I've posted a few things on Instagram, which is kind of then people that I haven't seen in a while being like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I've had such phenomenal support, like genuinely phenomenal support. Everybody's really happy for me. And it's been great then to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like it's really weird now that I never thought I would be that person that, I was talking to some people in the office this week. I was in Riyadh earlier this week talking to some people that I hadn't seen in a while. And we're talking about, my weightlifting 4 times a week. And this is what I do. And I'm on a podcast on Thursday and blah, blah, blah. Like, to think that I would be having those conversations is, so strange. Like, different person, genuinely different person. Yeah.
Well, you've earned it, right? You put in the work. I always truly believe that people that put in the work, It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off in any shape or form. There's no easy way out of it. You went through the ups, the downs, the lows, the highs, the I don't
The
want to do
roller
this
coaster.
anymore, the roller coaster, like a true roller coaster.
Yeah.
What about the people that meet you for the first time? Do you find a difference from Lynsey then to Lynsey now in the way people show up or respond to you?
Oh, definitely sometimes. I would say in more situations like going into shops, for example,
Please.
particularly maybe those higher end shops.
Yes.
Because, historically I maybe went in for accessories or bags or shoe, whatever. But now there is kind of a different perception when you walk in because you do fit into their clothes now.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I've seen the kind of biggest change in terms of engagement. Yeah.
What's the change that you notice when you walk in?
They're probably more welcoming. They're probably more facilitating in terms of, what are you looking for? How can we help you? It's a bit of a weird dynamic, but yeah.
And in the past, when you walked in, yes, you were going in for jewelry, but what was their take when you walked in?
Oh, definitely not as engaged. Like, definitely not as engaged because I'm probably not gonna, be as maybe spend as much as other
like
customers or something. Or I don't know what it is, but definitely I've noticed particularly in some stores where you do get a different reception.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've noticed that as well, right? It could never fit into clothes growing up, could never. And then you walk into stores and suddenly everyone's bending over backwards for you. And it's like, can I put this in the trial room? And I was like, really? That's what it feels like, and that's the honest truth. It happens, right? We can't, you can fight for body confidence. You can sit here and talk about it, but it does happen. You can't change another person's mind. There was another topic that I just recently spoke about this on my Instagram as well, which was weight loss jealousy, right? Which is, I think it doesn't get talked about enough. I believe I've seen it. I've seen clients that have seen it all the time saying, you know what, Natasha, my sister, someone as close as my sister now has a snubby comment to make anytime I'm out because I've lost 10 kilos or because I've lost 20 kilos. And she's like, I just can't believe I'm hearing this from family and friends. Have you noticed that or have you sensed it even a little bit?
I have to admit, my close friends, my family, my circle have been the most supportive, like cheerleading me since I opened up and talked about things and talked about the journey. They have been super supportive. I mean, I couldn't ask for better support. I think where I've seen more jealousy and a little bit, oh, look at her, has been maybe more acquaintances, and maybe more distant colleagues, for example. Definitely not in those people that I would consider close or anything, but I definitely have saw a bit of I've been very lucky that those closest to me have been phenomenal cheerleaders, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's what we want. But it's always people that know you and are just kind of wondering, well, do you think you're good enough now? You think you're too good now? And things of that sort. I'm going to ask you an Ozempic question. I just have to because it's going to cross people's mind in this day and age, right? And I'm going to base the question on that. In this day and age, given the fact that I know you way before Ozempic even became a craze, so I can vouch for Lynsey. I'm just going to tell you guys right now. In this day and age, when you see massive weight loss stories, I've seen it, I've experienced, I speak to these clients, right? And everyone needs their own tool to get to where they need to be. Is it a quick fix and an easy fix in some cases? Yes, I will admit that. What is your take on that? And do you find that people come up and ask you, hey, was it a weight loss injection?
100%.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
People have said, oh, are you on the injection? Because it's very popular in the workplace. And are you on the injections? No. That being said, if I was starting my journey this year, so when I started in January 23, Ozempic, Mounjaro, all of that was not a thing. It was just not something we heard of. Had I been starting in January 24, would I have done it? Probably. I'm not going to lie. I kind of just think each to their own. I know some people taking it. each to their own. I think I was at an appointment where I was offered by the doctor, would you like to consider this?
We talked about this.
And again, I'm not against it. Whatever people need to kind of to get to maybe kickstart the process. My take on it was when I was offered in the summer, I've kind of came this far, so I kind of owe it to myself to continue. But if I started my journey later in the years, then I probably would have taken it. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. It would have been kind of an easy start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kickstart.
And your actions speak louder than words. That's, for me, that's really big, right? Because if you were on Ozempic, I mean, let's be honest, Ozempic, Mounjaro, any Saxenda, whatever type of a GLP-1 injection was out there, you would be eating incredibly less. You would not be able to lift the amount that you are lifting 4 times a week, right? And why would you even bother with 4 times a week?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. So if anyone's listening to this story right now and thinking, oh, there could be some weight loss injection involved, this is why I asked you about your habits, right? This is why I asked you about your day-to-day life, because a person's day-to-day life predicts how they respond. Is it injections? Because I feel like there's a very heavy reliance on injections. If you look at, you have people that say, you know what, no, I'm really going to make a good lifestyle out of this. And I have clients that are like, no, I'm going to do a full 180 on this. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do the emotional eating. I'm going to learn how to eat better. And then you have people that say, nah, I'm just going to eat a few blueberries and go for 3 months and see how it goes. So I'm glad you shared that. Now I'm going to ask you a few questions that we've received from people on Instagram that are very curious about your weight loss journey. So I'm going to pull it up. Okay, so I'll start with the first question. I'm not going to say anyone's names just for privacy. So I'll start with the first one. I have a lovely lady asking, do you ever feel like it's too late to try to lose weight?
Oh, I definitely have moments where I was like, I'm over 40 now. No, I definitely have moments where I was like, kind of what's the point? But again, for whatever reason, it's clicked this time, and I'm probably healthier than I was in my 20s now, which is phenomenal, like fantastic. Like I love it. But I definitely had moments like that, 100%.
Yeah. Did you, just for reference so that everyone knows, when was the last time that you were the weight that you are right now? Just so that people can...
Oh my goodness. At least 20 years ago. Yeah. I wouldn't know for sure because it was a long time where I just didn't weigh myself.
Yeah.
So it's at least 20 years, if not slightly more.
Right. Yeah. So that answers our question. It's never too late to start trying. We have another question here that says, will you keep losing weight or is it enough?
So my goal right now is another approximately 4 kgs. Once I get the 4 kgs off, I think I'm done, because then at that stage, I think, to our earlier conversation, it's more looking at the loose skin and the surgery potential and stuff like that. But for actual weight loss, it's 4 kgs more. And then I think that's enough for my body shape.
What about on a fitness standpoint? How would that proceed?
So look, I think I found my 2 things. The weightlifting and the walking are my non-negotiables now. I think other classes come and go, other little bits come and go, but I think those are my non-negotiables. I think maybe 3 times a week might be more. I think I've done 4 times a week for purposes of kind of getting to where I am now. I think 3 times a week is probably more sustainable for me, plus the steps, plus maybe a class or 2, but changing those up. But the fitness for me, not just from the weight loss and the maintenance piece, but again, going back to the kind of mental well-being piece, has to now stay in my life. It's a habit that I notice the difference if I don't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you go back to your old habits, you're going to start looking like the old you.
Exactly.
Right? I keep saying that. All right. So we have another question here. When and why did you decide you're not looking back, but moving on from the old you once and for all?
When? Not to pinpoint the time again, but I think it was when we got to signing up to Roar last year. I think we had done this journey with the first 10 kgs, and I recognized that there was movement, but movement on the scale, and even me moving with the steps. But I think we recognized, and I recognized that that wasn't enough. So that, I
Absolutely.
think, probably was the turning point of me going, I need to invest more now because I don't want to go back. So I think that was probably the
Yeah.
kind of point at which I realized this is a longer term.
I mean, it's the investment in yourself, and what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
Right. And so we always knew it had to come,
Yeah.
and it had to be that either a PT, it had to be the gym, it had to be something that would get you there. And it was a perfect fit for you. It was a private, it took away that fear. It was right in your building. It was like there's no excuse, there's no hiding from this. And so I love that you shared that. And it's really pivotal. I'm not a PT. I can't teach you how to lift weights or do it in that way. I can show you how to eat. I can show you how to process your emotions better. So I'm so happy that you took that step, because it has really led you to get to this life in a completely different level and view life in a completely different way, All right. So this pertains more to a little bit of the work that we've done. So it says, what is something different that you learned through Feel It, Not Feed It? So the program that you and I started that you already didn't know about in regards to food.
It's not necessarily that I didn't know it. I did know it, but I think just through our work and our sessions, the idea that, it's okay to have moderation. It's okay to have balance. It's okay to have, like I said earlier, that bit of chocolate, that glass of wine. It's about balance. It's about, that one meal a week that you have is like that treat, like the enjoyment of it, really tasting it, really savoring the moment. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't that I didn't know portions should be this size or this should be this, or serving sizes on packets or whatever. But I think being more aware of it, being more mindful of it, talking about it, and it just helped to really bring it to the forefront of my mind and make me more aware of it, I guess.
Yeah. What does eating look like for you going forward once you're done the 4 kilos? What does that daily eating schedule or eating food look like? I know there's balance, and you've been great about the balance overall. But what is that going to look like once you hit that 4 kilo loss mark?
Yeah, I think it's still going to be that mindful approach. Am I hungry? Will I eat? Or I will eat. But it's being, I think, given the fact that I've been bigger, given the fact that I've been on this journey, I'm always going to have to be aware. I'm always going to have to stand on the scales every week to make sure that I'm not drifting too far from that goal weight. But I think I have more of an awareness of food now. I have more of a, I can have my, eggs in the morning or whatever. So I think it's just having that mindful approach and just being aware, not just of changes on the scale, but changes in my body. Do my jeans feel a little bit tight? I need to turn the screw a bit on something. I'm clearly indulging in maybe too much carb or something. I think the protein goal has to kind of stay front and center, because that's been really helpful. But I think it is just having that mindful approach, that balanced approach, and that awareness that I kind of always have to be on guard. I don't want to go back now. So have I put on a couple of pounds or kgs on the scale? Are my pants feeling a little bit tighter? Hey, let's rein it in for a few weeks and get back to that maintenance weight.
That's what you speaking music to my ears. Like I'm hearing you speak. I was like, that's exactly where we need to be. It's it's not a weight loss number. It's a weight loss bracket. And it's the pants, it's the shirt. And, people can look at it and say, oh, maybe that's a bit obsessive. Now you're going to constantly but you kind of have to be. It's not being obsessive. It's just, taking care of your health.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's a normal thing, and that's part of you now. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I feel like I'm so honored to be a part of this journey with you. I truly, truly am. I know we see each other once every 3 weeks now, but I still get to get your updates, see how you're doing, see how you're progressing forward. And I every time I look back, I told you I can't stop smiling every time I look at you because I'm just so happy for you, and so happy for how far you've come. Before we leave, I would ask you if you have any parting words for someone who's maybe just starting out, for someone who may have given up, or for someone who may not know where to start, may not have access to the resources. Any parting words for them?
Uh, find a person. I think reaching out and starting the journey by reaching out to you started this whole journey. It doesn't need to be a profession. It does. I was very honored to have Natasha. Does find a friend that you can talk to, get somebody that you can kind of be accountable with. I think having that on my journey has been the change, and has kind of been why this one has stuck more than any of the other ones in the other years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you so much, Lynsey. And I think we're going to give them an update to see how things go post makeover. Let's put it that way. Thank you so much, Lynsey,
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. And I think that's a wrap.